In Karakura town, two rookie Soul Reapers on patrol find themselves out of their league in the hollow-infested town. Before they can both be killed, substitute Soul Reaper Ichigo Kurosaki and his friends arrive to clean up the mess. 2 days later, after both the Soul Reapers recover, a man by the name of Asgiaro Eburn enters Ichigo's bedroom uninvited. Ichigo takes their fight outside and notices his Quincy chain. Then after he wards off an attempt to steal his Bankai, his opponent is swallowed up by a shadow and vanishes. Meanwhile, in the Rukongai of the Soul Society, many villages of people are disappearing without a trace, causing concern amongst the Soul Reapers. At the same time, a group calling themselves the Wandenreich infiltrate Head Captain Yamamoto's office after killing Vice Captain Sasakibe and declare war on the Soul Society.
Before he dies, he warns him that they can seal Bankai.
When they return to Sealburn, the palace of their leader, Yuhabaha, Yudas and Eburn, two Arankar soldiers, are effortlessly disposed of by him, having served their purpose. Yuhabaha. It's gonna be fun to say 15 times. Back at Ichigo's house, Yuki receives a call detailing the recent incident in the Soul Society. Ichigo is not sure how to feel about this news, and later on a patrol, he is served with another bit of news from Nell, who comes crashing down from Hueco Mundo. She tells him that Hueco Mundo is under attack, and that Lady Haribel, who has been ruling the realm, was taken prisoner, and Ichigo being Ichigo, is compelled to help them.
We gotta save Don Chaka too.
Man, fuck that guy. Now if only there was a way to get there. Oh, perfect. The group arrive in Hueco Mundo, where they see Arankars lying dead all over, with the survivors being rounded up by some soldiers.
And slaughtered anyways.
The man slaughtering these Arankar, a Quincy by the name of Kilgei Opi, is then attacked by the Tres Bestia, Fraction of Lady Haribel. Though they handle the foot soldiers, Stern Ritter J makes short work of them, and when Ichigo shows up, the Quincy immediately attacks the Special War Potential threat.
The Stern Ritter are the most powerful fighters in the Wandenreich army.
The Quincy goes through two unsightly transformations that trouble Ichigo, until he unleashes his Bankai to level the playing field. Meanwhile, as the Soul Society grasp the reality that the Quincies have returned, they prepare their defenses for another attack. And whilst Ichigo is preoccupied in Hueco Mundo, Yuhabaha decides it's time to invade the Soul Society, and the Stern Ritter makes short work of the Serete's defenses. Throughout the Serete, hundreds of court guard members perish in minutes, forcing the captains to step in to stem the bleeding, only for Captains Komamura, Hitsugaya, Kuchiki, and Soifon to have their Bankai stolen. Matsumoto subsequently warns all the squads that they do not seal Bankai as they thought, but steal them. Third seed of 12th Division, Akon, then takes it upon himself to call up Ichigo for help, though Kisuke informs him he's a little occupied at the moment. It seems that Kilgei is unable to steal Ichigo's Bankai, and after Ichigo flusters him, Kisuke delivers him a fatal blow and sends the boy through the Garganta to the Soul Society. Whilst getting an update from Akon on the situation, Ichigo is trapped within the Garganta by Kilgei, who is willing to sacrifice his life to stop the Shinigami from reaching the Soul Society. Before he can end the lives of his friends, he is sliced in half by... well, I can't tell you that yet. Whilst this is happening, chaos continues to ensue in the Soul Society. The Research and Development HQ is attacked by Jidanbo, whilst Byakuya is consumed by Stern Ritter F's fear ability, and he is eventually defeated by his own Bankai. Rukia and Renji are also incapacitated, though Kenpachi Zaraki manages to kill 3 Stern Ritters, then goes after their leader. Meanwhile, the head captain steps in on Lieutenant Hisagi's fight with Stern Ritter O, the Overkill, the man who stole Vice Captain Sasakibe's Bankai and killed him. He then turns the stolen Bankai on the head captain, but Yamamoto is furious at how weak this imitation of his subordinate's Bankai is, and finally gives him a proper send-off by incinerating his killer. Then, he flies in rage over to Yuhabaha's location, his spiritual pressure reverberating across the Serete and motivating the remaining squad members. When he arrives, he finds Zaraki defeated, and after setting the 12th Division captain down, Genryusai Yamamoto is ready to kill the man he failed to finish off 1,000 years ago.
Quick little history lesson.
1,000 years ago, the Quincy Empire, the Leaked Reich, invaded the Soul Society, but were wiped out by the ruthless 13 Court Guard squads, though Yhwach survived. Head Captain Yamamoto plans to rectify his mistake by unleashing his Bankai, Zanka no Tachi, which the Quincy King is unable to steal. He blasts holes in the ground, summons the dead to fight for him, and finally, with one fell swing of his scorching Zanpakuto, he blows a hole through Yhwach's body. The fallen Quincy apologizes for failing in his mission, as it turns out that he is not the real king, but merely a Sternritter with the ability to copy appearances. Then, the real Yhwach blows a hole from under the Squad 1 barracks, where he had met with Sosuke Aizen, who refused his offer to come under his command. The real Yhwach does manage to steal Yamamoto's Bankai, and with one fell swing of his blade, he slices apart the head captain of the 13 Court Guard squads. With their leader defeated and their morale crushed, the remaining squad members struggle to cope with the invasion, as the rest of the army flood through and slaughter every Soul Reaper they see. Just when the Serete's end seems near, Akon manages to open their Garganta to let Ichigo through, who makes short work of a Sternritter and heads to Byakuya's location. The 6th Division captain, with his last words, asks the human to protect the Soul Society.
Last words? Ha! Good one.
The high schooler then heads straight for Yhwach and engages him in his ragged state. The Quincy King seems to slice his throat, but Ichigo uses Blut Vein, a Quincy ability, to defend himself. Yhwach explains how his fight with Kilge seems to have awakened core memories within his spiritual pressure, and that the reason he was able to break out of his jail is due to his Quincy blood. He then realizes that the young boy knows nothing about himself, or more specifically, about his mother. Though before he can force him back to his castle to educate him, his power outside the Shatenberek reaches its limit, forcing him and his army to retreat from certain victory. Before he leaves, Ichigo charges at him again, but his right-hand man Hashwalth breaks his Zanpakuto in two. Then they vanish. The Soul Society is therefore spared for another day, though with hundreds killed, and Captains Zaraki and Kuchiki unlikely to fight again. They are in no shape to retaliate. After Ichigo shares a word with Rukia, he is told by Kurotsuchi that a destroyed Bankai can never be restored. Then, Squad 0, who protect the Soul King and have a combined power greater than the entire 13 Court Guard squads, come crashing down from the Royal Palace. They share a mini reunion with some of the captains, and take Renji, Rukia, Byakuya, and Ichigo with them back to the Royal Palace. Their first stop is Tenjiro Kinriji's special healing hot spring, where the four soak to recover their injuries. Renji and Ichigo are the first to recover, thanks to the extreme ponds that would cause any normal individual's body to rupture. The two are then sent on their way, where they stuff their bellies with delicious food made by Kiryu Hikifune. With their strength recovered, and their bodies filled to the brim with spiritual pressure, Renji and Ichigo head to their next destination. Meanwhile, Shunsui Kyoraku is appointed head captain as per Yamamoto's instruction, and his first task is to have Kenpachi Zaraki learn the art of the sword from Yachiru Unohana, the first Kenpachi. In Muken, the lowest level of the central underground prison, Unohana awaits Zaraki, where the two cross blades for the first time since Zaraki was a child. Unohana was captain of Squad 11 when the Soul Society was attacked 1,000 years ago, slaughtering many Quincy's herself as Kenpachi. Hundreds of years later, she came across a young Zaraki, and though the boy was strong enough to kill her from the beginning, he suppressed his power in fear of losing his only worthy foe, and left her with only a scar. Today, Unohana stabs and heals him countless times to force him to break out of the shackles he placed on himself all those years ago. She then reveals her Bankai, Minazuki, and eventually, Zaraki overcomes his own limits as he pierces the foe he admires most, and rightfully earns the title of Kenpachi. Back at the Royal Palace, Renji and Ichigo meet the lively Oetsu Nimaya, the creator of Zanpakuto.
Don't get the wrong idea. They're not women. They're Zanpakuto.
What the fuck is Khan doing here?
The two Shinigami are thrown into the Hooden, where they are attacked by nameless Zanpakuto called a Sauchi, and after 3 days in the pit, Renji is chosen by one, whereas Ichigo is not. Nimaya therefore refuses to fix his Zanpakuto, and tells him that a fake Soul Reaper without a Zanpakuto has no place in the Soul Society, then sends him back home. His father heard the news of the Quincy attack from Urahara, and he correctly infers how he was kicked out. He then proceeds to shed light on Ichigo's identity by sharing the story of how he and his mother met. Years ago, Squad 10 Captain Ishin Shiba sets out to investigate an incident in Naruki City where Soul Reapers have been dying. Meanwhile, Masaki Kurosaki, the last surviving member of her pure Quincy bloodline, is living as a guest in the Ishida residence, where the expectation is for her to marry the family's son, Ryuken Ishida. On the night of Ishin's visit, he comes face to face with one of Aizen's holification experiments, and Masaki rushes to the aid of the Soul Reaper, despite Ryuken's warning. The Hollow takes a bite out of her, but in return, she kills it. Then Ishin protects her from its self-destruction. She is pleasantly surprised to see the Soul Reaper's cheerful reaction to meeting a Quincy, his kind's natural enemy. They both go their separate ways with each other on their mind, and the next day, Masaki develops a hole in her chest, not unlike a Hollow's. In Ryuken's panic, he is saved by Ishin from a Hollow, and Urahara interrupts their argument to offer a solution to save the young Quincy girl. They return to his shop, and he informs them that the only way to save her life is for Ishin to bind his soul to hers, though he will have to live out his life in a human Gigai. Much to Kisuke and Ryuken's surprise, the Shinigami accepts the proposition casually. The procedure proves a success, and after years of courting, the two eventually get married and have a son, who would inherit the same hollow as his mother.
Ryuken ended up marrying his servant Katagiri, Uryu's mother.
When the hollow within him awakened, Ishin's connection to his Gigai was broken, and thus he regained his Soul Reaper powers. Furthermore, the day his mother died was the day Yhwach stole the power from Quincy's he deemed impure, thus rendering her defenseless when attacked by a hollow.
Katagiri also died from this process.
The Quincy King was able to do this because he is the father of all Quincy's, as they all have his blood running through their veins. Now that Ichigo finally understands himself, Nimaya's bodyguard Meira pops up to return him to Hooden, where the Asauchi now bow down to him, as he picks one to be the new catalyst for his Zanpakuto. Then, Nimaya and his bodyguards begin to reforge it, and it is revealed to the youngster that Zangetsu is really his Quincy powers taking the form of Yhwach from 1,000 years ago.
It is Yhwach, but it's not? I don't know.
Apparently, Zangetsu has been suppressing his power all this time, aware that if he became a powerful Soul Reaper, he would one day have to kill him. Yet the hollow within him was the one pushing his powers beyond. Zangetsu then disappears, satisfied with how much this young boy has grown, and he leaves him with his unsuppressed power in the form of his true Zanpakuto. Once Ichigo pours his soul into it, he ends up with two Zanpakuto, as both the Quincy and hollow within him manifest themselves. Meanwhile, across the Serete, the squad captains are each finding their own ways to improve themselves, ahead of the inevitable final showdown with the Quincy's.
Wait, Uri, what are you doing with Yhwach?
If you made it to this point in the video, why haven't you liked and subscribed and commented something yet? It helps the channel, helps it grow. I would really appreciate it. And with that being said, take it easy, and peace.